What's the date? 17th?
17.
17. Yeah. Just tell me when and we'll date it. All right. Man, you're watching Family Group at Justin's Lighthouse. Thursday night, Family Group, November 17th, 2022. Tonight we're going to talk about a life of extremes. And of course, this one's for everybody. But like we talk about all the time, addicts, the characteristics of addicts and alcoholics aren't necessarily any different than just whatever regular non-drinking, non-drug using people, but because we live in these extremes, that these characteristics are ultimately going to end up killing us, or at least landing us in jail for a very, very long time. So let me read this on self-protection. Recovery is not a battle anyone wins alone. We help each other to think and live in new ways. Alone, we are vulnerable to temptation. Together, we form a shield of protection for one another. The Apostle Paul wrote, "Hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil." Faith here refers to trusting in Christ for salvation. We'll say your higher power. Fill in your own blank. In general terms, it also means being steadfast in our convictions. This can apply to our convictions about God's wisdom in the Bible or our confidence in the 12 steps. The shield of faith was likened to the shields carried by Roman soldiers, which covered the entire body. To advance in battle, a group of soldiers would assemble together, making a wall of shields for protection as they moved forward. In like manner, we are told to stick together. The writer of Hebrews wrote, "Let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another." We are to take our place in a fellowship of people that provides us with the mutual protection that we need to stand firm in recovery. We need to assemble with others who share the common beliefs helpful in recovery. Our encouragement of one another, our shared faith in God and His Word, and the principles of the 12 steps will be a form of strength and protection as we advance in the recovery process. Well, that's pretty good. I haven't read that before, but I think it's one of the hardest things for us to do. You know, and you guys can speak on this if you want. We're so accustomed to, well, we think we're going it alone. We've got, and that's part of this extreme thinking. I either need everything exactly the way I want it, or we're just stuck in some, isolation, waiting for the world to change. And so we tend to be kind of loners. We tend to think, man, if only I can just have this, get this, do this, not have to do that, then I'll be okay. And of course, we crawl into recovery, and all of a sudden, we start learning, well, no, we really need to engage, and we need to be willing to be a part of something bigger than we are. We need to rely on each other, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to listen, and it's okay to follow somebody else's ideas and a different path. And so anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. We just talk about fellowship. That's it. If we can get that down, and it's so cool that you're still, I know you got a lot going on, man, but you make this commitment and you keep coming, and it's the same thing for all you guys, but it's harder to do when you're not here. It's so easy, and I'm curious if you want to talk on this, share on this. You've had a hard day. All you want to do is, you're 5 minutes from home. All you got to do is just go home. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. And yet, you came for the fellowship, if nothing else. It's important. It's not what I feel like doing, but it's important, so I'm going to do it. And that's how we break through this extreme thinking, this extreme life, a life of extremes. And so, like we talk about, our behavior is a result of our thinking. Everything starts in our thinking. And there's reasons why we live in extremes. You can, of course, everybody's familiar with the shameful, shameless dynamic, right? Shameful is we see ourselves as no good, loser, inadequate, never going to amount to anything. And yet we tend to present the opposite to the world. I got to have it all together. I can't make any mistakes. I just need to go it alone. I'm not the problem. It's just you. If you would change, then I would be okay. And so we live in these extremes. And it's all part of the same thing. That ends up being the ultimate result of it. But it's all starts in our thinking. So let's break some of that down. Like everybody's heard the term all or nothing thinking, polarized thinking, black or white, or black and white thinking. There's no middle ground in the way we engage with the world, because there's no middle ground with the way we engage with ourselves. That's the trauma. All this stuff is the result of trauma. The way we learn how to see ourselves at a young age. And that, I think there's even some bullet points on this side of the board, but we'll work our way there. So this all or nothing thinking, and sorry, my blue ink ran out very quickly, so that's, I'm not making like different points here. I just ran out of blue ink. But it's either, we see life. Well, maybe this is even easier to kind of relate with. We see every experience that we're having as either all good or all bad. I either am 100% in or I'm 100% out. And that you're doing it. That doesn't mean that we flip out and go, oh my God, I can't handle this experience, but we're thinking it. Right? This is when you're doing this, when you're having periods where on the outside it seems like you're agreeable and you're just sitting there and you're quiet and you're whatever, you're listening or you're whatever. But in your mind, you're picking it apart. Right? This is stupid, this doesn't make any sense. We're looking at the clock, when's this gonna be over? We're making our shopping list or our chore list, and if I can, I'm gonna get back to this thing and that thing. That's us completely rejecting the experience that we're having. So don't miss this, because you may not display crazy behavior like, oh my God, I can't stand this. It's all going on up here. It's our thinking, and by the way, we've perfected that. We've perfected this ability to show on the outside a lie, basically. We can look like on the outside that everything's okay, I'm fine, no, I'm enjoying this, no, this is interesting, no, but it's not. This is what drives drinking and using. This is what keeps us disconnected. We're living in extremes because we're thinking in extremes. So when we have an experience, we are looking at it as either all good or all bad. And we can pick it apart like nobody's business. And then it gets even more specific. It's either something that I want or nothing at all. I can give you some really specific examples, but it may not be necessary, because I'm sure you guys can relate to this if you're honest with yourself. Believing that I either have to perform perfectly or I just can't perform at all. We were kind of touching on this earlier this week. I forget what day it was. We were talking about defects and assets. And think about that. That's extreme thinking. That if I'm going to pursue this thing, I have to do it perfectly. And since I don't know how I'm going to do it perfectly yet, I'm not going to do it at all. I'm not going to make any effort in that direction. This is, we can sit around for days, weeks, months, talking about something. Hey, I thought you were going to get that bike fit. Have everything laid out before me from beginning to end, or else I won't even begin. And that's what keeps us stuck. We live in extremes. We think in extremes, and we're master rationalizers. We can totally excuse that away. Well, I'm just not sure about this, and I'm just not sure about that, and it's not this, and it's not that. And we can make it sound good. But we know that we know it's really driven by fear. We're scared to death to take step 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not talking about the 12 steps. I'm talking about just making an effort towards something that we find important. But what if I get to 3 and such happens? Or what if I get to 4 and this other thing doesn't happen? So we won't even step out onto the whatever, the boardwalk. Scared to death. That's extreme thinking. And where that leaves us is we're either going 150 miles an hour or we're waiting. That's a pretty good visual. You're either going 150 miles an hour or you're waiting. You're just still. That's literally the life that we live. On one hand, we're doing this. We're going all over the place. Oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do that, because we think we're performance-based, right? I'm only as good as my performance. But then other times we're just sitting here waiting. And those are the times where we complain the most. Those are the times we critique and judge the most. Those are the times that we get totally lost in our head. And there are extremes. We're in one or the other at any given time. There is no balance. We haven't ever developed balance because it's all feelings driven, right? We base decisions based on how we're feeling or how we think it'll help us feel. And like responsibility, accountability, personal desire, personal goals, personal dreams, that's not part of it. We're literally just trying to feel better in the next 5 minutes. Or as Dr. Kevin McCauley would say, it said in Pleasure Unwoven, in the next 15 seconds. That's insane. But that's where we are. That's where we are. So, and this, if you haven't already figured it out, all or nothing thinking is obviously where perfectionism lies. We believe that we must perform better than to cover up feeling less than. That is shameful, shameless. I've got to be perfect so that I don't have to feel less than. I've got to perform superhuman so I don't have to feel less than human, which is never going to happen. It's ridiculous. And yet it's such an integral part of our makeup. So we live in extremes. We live in extremes, and we don't even recognize that we live in extremes. We really think that we have a balance, but here's where you need to look: is how you respond to this. He does that all the time. The other day, you're like, you didn't even touch him. You're like, stick your hand out. He's like a 4-year-old. Like he's trying to get somebody else in trouble. Anyway, sit down, Draco, please.
Down, Draco.
How we deal with stress. This is where it all starts getting developed. We don't know how to deal with stress, and so or I should say, effectively. And so much of the solution to all of this extreme thinking is taking a look at how you already currently respond to stress-related experiences. And the first thing you probably recognize is the way we tend to relate to stress oriented experiences is based on how we're feeling about it, right? Feelings trump everything. We can have important things to do or ideas or goals or plans or whatever, but if we're having a stress experience, those are the things that we put on hold until we solve the feelings problem, and then we'll get back to our personal responsibilities. And that, incidentally, is how we learn how to live in the solution. That's maybe we got too much electricity going on here. So all of this, all or nothing, 150 miles an hour versus just waiting, keeps us stuck in this high need for control. Of course, you guys have had a lot of trauma stuff, so you know it's this living a life of extremes is a response to needing to feel in control. like just sitting that for a minute, just needing to feel in control. You know, however that plays out. And so the interesting part of that is what we're really reacting to is a high need to control everything else, right? It's crazy. I was thinking about this morning, how much energy and even effort that we will put into wishing we could control somebody else, you know, people, places, things, or situations, as the big book refers to. Basically, everything outside of ourselves. Man, if I could just control this, and if this would be different, and if they would change this and that and this and that. And we can pour, or I should say, we could waste entire days and weeks and months wishing we could change everybody else. You know, that's, you know, go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. We're having a stress experience. And what we're looking at is we're understanding how we feel, and then our focus is on what's outside of us. You know, you're the reason I'm feeling this way. You're the reason, or maybe you should be the reason I could feel different. Or, you know, people, places, thing, everything external, everything beyond ourselves. Man, if this place was just, if they would just, and he and she and them, and that's an awful lot of energy. And yet, we will make very low effort towards controlling our own life. That's just a loud night. They've been racing lately up and down the street.
And robbing.
They
hit my work truck 2 days ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my cousin who works with me, he lives over here on 10th Street and right pretty close from Rockwell and 10th Street.
Uh-huh.
And then my wife saw a post from a girl that said the sister got around here between Council and Rockwell. Wherever there, she's there to do that.
Daytime, nighttime?
Nighttime. Mostly tools and people that have like work trucks and stuff, tool bags and stuff like that.
Well, there was a helicopter out the other day, so police helicopter running around for a while. That's interesting. I'll keep our eyes on it. He's never been quite that rambunctious before. You can stick him outside and we can bark on it alone. If y'all don't want to mess with him anymore.
He doesn't have a collar on. It's too tight.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so think about that for a minute. Think about how much energy. You know, here's a good place to start. Just think of the last experience that you had. Maybe it was 24 hours ago. Maybe it was a week ago, where you were feeling discontent, right? That victimhood. You know, I shouldn't have to this, or I shouldn't have to be experiencing that, or if only this, or if only, you know how we get. And then pay attention to what you were focusing on. And it wasn't self, it was who or what we were blaming for our disposition. Well, this other thing, and it's what's upset me, and if only this other thing would change, and we will pour so much energy into wishing something else that we have no control over could be different. And that's why, you know, I love the serenity prayer. That's what the whole point of it is. You know, AA didn't invent the serenity prayer, but somebody early on figured out, you know, that's really what the problem is with alcoholics, is we've got that in reverse. We've spent so much time and energy focusing on the part of the situation we have zero control of.
Mm.
And we don't spend any time on the part of the situation that we have complete control of. And now you know why, or certainly part of that why.
Mostly our part.
Exactly. It's, you know, the old adage, you know, just pay attention to your side of the street. Quit looking at the other side of the street. We hear all these nice little sayings, and they're good and they're handy to keep with you, but we don't really understand what that means. And just learning that isn't going to change. We have to recognize this is very, very deep rooted in us. We are literally programmed to live in these extremes, to interpret anytime we feel stress, it's an automatic reaction that, oh my God, I'm feeling stress. It must be because something beyond me. And that's the difference between reacting versus responding. We're always reacting. I have a feeling, it's your fault. And until you do something different, I'm always going to be stuck with this feeling. And so since nothing is going to be different, we just get more bitter and more resentful and more bitter and more hateful until we, what? Go self-destruct. How much sense does that make? It doesn't make any sense, but to the addict, it makes perfect sense. That's how sick our brain is. There's that old expression, I've heard it, resentment is just us just drinking the poison, hoping the other person gets sick. And that's what's happening in this extreme thinking, in this life of extremes, where we can be so focused on what's going on around us and why we think something beyond us is making us miserable, but we will put very little, if any, effort toward ourselves, to just getting back to our side of the street. And that's okay. It starts with just recognizing, yeah, that's pretty much my pattern. And it's not because, we're idiots and we don't have a clue how to live. Remember, this is pain driven, it's trauma driven, and it doesn't take long to develop improper coping skills that then get stored in your memory. So of course, at this point in life, anytime you have a stress experience, and it doesn't take much, it doesn't, you don't have to almost get run off the road by another driver. It can be as simple as, just waking up in a bad mood. Now you're, this is, I shouldn't have to work today, or whatever it is. But your reaction to that now is automatic. And so that, I'll save the rest of that when we get to the solution. But the whole point is just recognizing what this really looks like, because, it's easy to come in here and say, addiction, a life of extremes. We're going to talk about shameful, shameless, and how, and go, yeah, I see how I do that sometimes. Yeah. And then just kind of leave it at that. No, this is how we live. This is our pattern of thinking. This is not a sometimes sort of thing. All of our thinking is extreme. It's literally all or nothing. And of course, the recovery process is learning how to get to the middle and then practicing staying in the middle. And of course, gosh, if it could only happen that way, right? What happens is we can be very quick to get to the middle and get some balance. But then all of a sudden, here comes some stress experience and it challenges us, and very quickly we'll go right back into our extremes. Well, I was doing just fine, but then this other person and they're the ones that knocked me off course. No, that's the lie. That's the automatic reaction that we've told ourselves over the years. That however I'm feeling is because of someone else. Or something else. You can fill in. Even that's not to say we don't all have legitimate experiences. We can truly be a victim of circumstance. You can actually have an experience where you're walking down the sidewalk and it's broad daylight and you're staying to the right, and out of nowhere this crazy teenager decided to ride his skateboard off of his roof, and he missed his landing spot and comes over the bushes and crushes you. We can have experiences where we literally had nothing to do with it. Those are few and far between. Just be honest about that. But here's the thing, it's not about the experience. The experience isn't what hurts us. What hurts us is how we respond to the experience. And that's where we shoot ourselves in the foot. Because what we learned, over here, I'm kind of bouncing a little bit, but with these, well, shit, I don't even see it now. The way we learn how to improperly respond to stress experiences were based on feeling, and now it's automatic. So it's not enough to say, oh, well, this one's my fault, so I'll take ownership of this, and this thing wasn't my fault, so I'll let that other person have ownership of that. We have to learn how to think along those lines. And until change occurs, we will always react stressfully from the stress position, how I'm feeling about it. Doesn't matter what the experience was. And that's the crazy part, because we have no problem giving so much time and energy and resources into the part of the situation we cannot control. And we will put very little, if any, into the part of the situation that we can control, which is, of course, us. And not even our thinking, but our behavior. The only thing we can actually control at any given moment, unless you're paralyzed, is all to do with your behavior. Right? And that's the one thing we don't even seek to control. But of course, everybody's far enough along. You guys are working on that. Right? Heck, I'm still working on that. Learning how to have a stress experience, but responding based on behavior, responsibility, accountability, goals, dreams, blah, 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 instead of how that experience makes me feel. I had one of my mentors, and having these similar, and Eric knows the guy I'm talking about, having these similar conversations, and him saying, me whining and complaining about, this just isn't fair, and this thing, and so he said, who cares? So, well, no, you don't understand. This makes me feel so great. So that's how you feel. What are you gonna do next? Oh, well, no, you don't understand. I mean, golly, I'm so upset right now. I can't go to that meeting. I won't hear, just excuse after excuse after excuse coming out of my mouth. But what's really happening is I'm thinking, if only this other person would do something different, then I wouldn't have to feel like this. And of course, that's never going to happen. So anyway, I'm grateful. It sounds kind of harsh hearing myself replay that 20 years later, but I needed to hear that stuff. I need to hear people tell me, nobody cares about your feelings. And that's okay that you care about your feelings, but let's move off feelings. It's time to move away from feelings and, have your feeling, but quit making decisions based on it. Because we've got a life of making decisions based on feelings. So here we are. This is kind of a 3-point, and I already kind of talked about some of this, but we'll hit some points that maybe we didn't get in yet. So just kind of think about it. Don't slip past this one too quickly. Really think about this one for a minute. In our extreme thinking, we make decisions based on feelings. Well, really explore what that looks like in you. What does that really look like? And is it true? But of course it's true, because we don't know how not to yet. But you won't change it if you don't recognize it. So what does that mean? What kind of decisions are we talking about? Pretty much all of them. From the minute we wake up, I've heard we make like 20,000 decisions a day or something like that. Some crazy number. From literally whether or not I'm going to use my index finger to turn the alarm off, whether I'm going to throw a shoe at it, whether I'm even going to attempt to turn it off, whether I'm going to roll over. I mean, we are constantly making decisions throughout the day. What are yours based on? That's what you want to look at. Because if you aren't willing to explore it, we'll just easily reject that. No, I don't make decisions based on feelings. Maybe once or twice, but if you don't see the pattern in it, you won't be able to change it. And the truth is I'm going to say it's greater than 80-20. The majority, 98% of all of our decisions are based on feelings. We believe that would the situation or others would change. Yeah, we were talking about that. Believing that our feelings or our situation would be different. And that's kind of the if-onlys, when the big book talks about the if-onlys. I wouldn't have to feel like this if only you would do something different. or my favorite, past tense, if only you had done something different, I wouldn't have to feel like this. Again, get back to this insane amount of energy and personal resources we will pour into nothingness. Right? We can have an experience that has already happened. It's done. And we can give all the energy we've got stuck in this idea, this extreme thinking that, well, since it's happened, I feel like this, so I can't change how I feel unless past tense, it didn't happen, basically, is what we're thinking. Well, obviously, that's crazy thinking. If only you hadn't done that thing, I wouldn't have to feel like this. Well, it's happened, so what now? Well, what now is bitterness, resentment, waiting, self-destruction. It never works out for us. Extreme thinking never works out for us. We always shoot ourselves in the foot. The second point, these improper coping skills, which is, we haven't done this one in a while. We probably will with the group coming up because it's about time. But you remember what we talked about, the difference between reaction and responses, and our number one improper coping skill is to react. React is I feel, or I'm making decisions based on this event that has occurred. Well, and it could be, I gotta go to the bathroom and someone else is in the bathroom. How you react to in that moment is typically going to be based on feeling, versus responding, which is based on, you still have the exact same situation, but a response is centered on self-improvement, personal responsibility, accountability, your own goals, your own, there's prisons are filled with people who made decisions based on someone else's behavior. And they are bitter and they are angry and they still believe that if only the other person hadn't done something, they wouldn't have to be in jail or prison or whatever. There's a lot of similarities with criminal thinking, or the criminal mind, and the alcoholic mind. And we used to do that topic a lot, or I have, and it's very amazing because the problems are so similar in the way we think in these extremes. But the good news is, in recovery, we can learn to change our thinking. People with that have, what they would refer to as the textbook criminal mind, most of them are narcissists and will never change. We got a shot at it. We got a really good shot at it. We can actually change the way we think by changing the way we behave. Do the one thing that you can control, which is your behavior. Change that, even though you don't feel like it, even though you don't understand it. And what happens is the feelings will follow. That's where self-esteem comes from. And then our thinking follows as well. Everybody's heard that old, the old adage, don't ever follow your first thought, that first automatic thought, oh my God, this is bullcrap, or whatever that experience is. Okay, that's your first automatic thought. Reject that. What's your second thought? Well, my second thought is this would be a good time to ask for help. Or maybe, I guess I'm a little upset, but maybe I need to reel it back in, and what can I do different? When we reject our first thought and we start kind of taking that second thought captive, now we can reason. Now we can make decisions based on reality instead of based on feelings. Don't be so quick to just jump onto that first thought. We're trying to change that. We want that first thought to be different, but you won't always change that first thought. Just know it's automatic and it is what it is. So let it be that. It's just a thought I'm about to reject. It's not going to dictate my future. We already covered that. Okay, then the third point on this one, this is how we've interpreted our life experiences. And it doesn't take much. It does not take much. I was reading a thing on transference earlier today, and how you see it. There's a lot of there's not really. I was kind of surprised. Really, there's not much out there other than how transference applies in the therapeutic process. But it's so much more than that. But how? I mean, we can do it with each other. I'll give you an example. Let's say you grow up and you have decided. Remember, nobody's told us this. That's part of the extreme thinking. We decided these things about ourselves. That I'm a victim, I'm a loser, I'm unsafe. It could be physically unsafe, emotionally unsafe. Something is wrong. I can't move forward until I feel different. That's a big one. Next time you feel stuck, look at this one, because I promise you that's what's happening. I can't do anything unless somebody else does something. And I mean, we could go on and on and on. Okay, so whatever triggers that, this we'll pick one. This I'm a loser. You know, we talk a lot about having a deep sense of inadequacy. You might even associate it with some previous experience. You know, maybe you always wanted to play soccer, but you just didn't have the talent for it, and so you were always sitting on the bench. And you've got things that are associated with that always remind you of that you're just not good enough. You just don't belong. And it's usually something that was important to us, and maybe we weren't good at it. Maybe some situation kept us from it. It doesn't matter. The whys don't matter. Just recognize that this is what got stored in the memory, that I'm a loser, I'm a victim, I'm not enough, and so I've got to prove that I am enough. Then fast forward to well, I mean, let's fast forward it to like right now. Just sitting in this group, hearing me say these words, I'm a victim, I'm a loser, I'm inadequate, and you interpreting that as, well, he's talking about me. That's what transference looks like. He's directly talking to me. Right? That's an emotional reaction. That's an improper stress reaction. Right? Taking what someone else or something else, you know, just an experience, personalizing it, however it may be, based on how it makes you feel, and then drawing a conclusion, and then there we're stuck. Right? And then we spend the rest of the night, we're butthurt, and then we're going to talk about it, we'll go have a cigarette, and man, that's bull crap, and you know, he never does that, he never talks about your stuff in front of group, and what's going on? Did I do something wrong? And then we're just off and running in our heads. But none of it is real. Now, well, maybe I'll just let that sit a little bit. Just think about that. That's what it looks like when we live a life of extremes. We take ownership of stuff that doesn't belong to us, based on how we feel, right? Or what we think is happening is based on how it is making me feel. But that's not what's happening. It doesn't have that power. So why in the world would anybody think it has the power to make me feel something? Well, because remember, it goes back to once we learned or started trying to protect ourselves on an emotional level, you know, way back in childhood, we developed a way to react to things, and now it's stored in the memory. Now it's just automatic. We don't even think about it. All we know is we feel about it. You know, we could say a lot of this maybe for group, but it's really fascinating. I guess it's a long way to say we got to get out of our head. We got to quit thinking, because it's killing us. All this thinking, when really it's feeling, right? We're drawing conclusions based on how we feel. and we feel based on how we're interpreting whatever experience that we're having. And it's, I put it on the solution over here. It's that's what this is referring to. We've actually been living a life of lies. You know, you probably even can point to some experiences where maybe you've even like had a situation like that and you went and confronted the person. You know, man, that was not cool. And the the response that you got back was just total confusion. What are you talking about? Oh, you think I was talking about you. That's that's the alcoholic brain all rolled into one. That's the self-absorption, the self-centeredness, all the pain. I think everything is about me. That's the stress response, and it's all stored in the memory. So, okay, so let me move past this so we can spend more time on the solution. But look at these messages, and of course, we could probably come up with 50. But here's 6 good ones. So as we learn how to think in this all or nothing polarized way, we think things like, in order for me to be enough, I must perform more than enough or more than human. In order to keep from feeling subhuman, I have to perform superhuman. Just think, don't reject that too quickly, because that's exactly what's happening. That's how we go through the world. It doesn't mean that we always are performing superhuman, but that's the other part of it. We're either in this mindset of, oh, I got to do everything perfect. I got to perform just to get you to accept me. I've got to outperform everybody just to be acceptable. It's messed up. Perfectionism is a huge behavioral trait that we use to pull this off. Another one, that it's my responsibility to please everybody. I must please everyone, right? Nobody cannot like me. I must please everyone. And again, it's the same kind of thing. We'll pour so much energy and resources into making sure, and that one's easy to confuse because there is a genuineness there. We do care about people. And so one of the lies that we've told ourselves over the years is, oh, no, I'm just making sure everybody's okay. I'm just genuinely concerned, and I'm just trying to help, and I'm just trying to, I enjoy doing things for others. Until we don't feel like it. That's the defect. That's the all or nothing. That's how you know, but you got to be honest with yourself about it. That's how you know that it hasn't become a natural balanced part of you. It's still part of this all or nothing thinking. We must please everyone in order to feel okay. Not I want to make an effort to please everyone because I want to serve. I've got to please everyone because my self-image is contingent upon it. That's the black and white thinking. That's the life of extremes. So, the good news is in recovery, the genuine part of that tends to come through. And then you don't need to please anybody. You're just serving. And some people will be pleased by it, and some people won't. And you're okay with that because you're just doing what you're able to do. We don't have the power to please somebody else, but we do have the power to do what we can, and maybe you make someone's life, day a little bit better. Maybe you don't. But in our extreme thinking, we need to please the other person in order to feel okay. Everything comes back to just self-centeredness. But if I can't, then I won't even try. Right? Well, I don't see the use in it. And, we can have these conversations with ourselves. Everybody, maybe you're at a function or something, and everybody's commingling, and to us, it's just like this huge mountain that we will never be able to pull off. So we won't even say hello to one person. Because there's no way I could say hi to everybody and make sure that they're okay with me, so I'm not going to say hi to anybody, right? And we'll hide in the corner, and we act like we got to keep going to the bathroom, and We spend an inordinate amount of time outside smoking a cigarette. And anything we can do to avoid the experience. That's what a life of extremes looks like. All or nothing, all or nothing. I hope you're recognizing it. The third one, I'll speed these up. Remember these. This is the way we think. Every experience must be as I envision, or else. Now, and before you go, oh no, I don't think that. What? Wait, yeah, we do. Every experience that I have must be exactly like I'm thinking it's supposed to be. Or else. Or else what? Or else I'm going to get bitter, mad, angry, defensive, until I eventually self-destruct. See, that's the insanity of this thinking. But that's where we are. That's totally accurate, isn't it? That falls in the unrealistic expectations category, and there's a reason for that. All these defects that we have, they all just are kind of jumbled together. We talk about them, just kind of break them down so you can recognize it a little bit more. Oh my gosh, I recognize that. Yeah, so that's what that is. I've always had that. I didn't know there was like a thing for it. But this one's a killer. Really believing that every experience that I have better be the way I'm expecting it to be. And you know that you're having that thought because you're now engaged in an experience that isn't going exactly like you envisioned it, and you're starting to get discontent. Right? We start to get impatient, we start getting fidgety, when's this thing going to be over? And we become discontent. Why? Because somebody said something mean to us? No. Because we're thinking, well, this isn't what I was expecting, and so now I'm going to self-destruct. I mean, it's just crazy behavior. But remember, the brain has been messed up for a long time. This is how we move past it. We literally behave our way back into health. So this is one of my favorites, guys. I've been stuck in this place so many times. Well, since I don't have it all together, what's the use? Right? On one hand, we think we got to have it all together all the time, right? I got to be Superman just to be accepted, or nothing. Well, since I can't be Superman, why should I try? That's all or nothing. But where does that leave us? It leaves us waiting. Remember, we're either going 150 miles an hour or we're waiting. I need, in order for me to feel safe, I need people, places, things, and situations to always get it right. That's a big. I mentioned that a couple of times, and that's that feeling of unsafeness, not feeling safe. We're talking about emotional safety. We can feel very emotionally unsafe. But there's that word again, feeling. That's all that's happening. We're feeling something. And if we make decisions based on what we're feeling, we're going to keep getting what we always got. The key to moving through this is just recognizing that you're feeling something, but what we don't want to do anymore is just stop dead in our tracks until somebody else, something else, some person, place, thing, or situation is different. Okay, fine, because they did something different, now I feel safe. Well, you just gave away your goals, your dreams, your plans, your all the resources, all your talents, all your skills, all that stuff you're supposed to be sharing with the world. You put all that on hold until you could feel different. This is what it looks like when we live in extremes. It's a life of extremes. We got pretty detailed tonight, so there's no way you can't recognize it. Now, just very briefly, we say, oh, well, everything comes from childhood. I'm not talking about, like in-depth Freudian analytics, but there's a lot of truth in it. you know, when you're 4 years old and you have a painful experience, or at least you're interpreting it as a painful experience, you don't know how to interpret that. You know, your buddy got an A in class, and you know that you usually get better grades, but then your buddy gets an A and you get a C, and you don't understand. You know, right? It's confusing. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? You know, it can be little situations like that where what starts getting stored in our brain is I'm not enough. No, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. So in order for me to be enough, I've now got to get straight A's. I can never get another B. Little things like that. So when we talk about, you know, everything develops in childhood, it's those kind of experiences. It doesn't mean, oh, we all had to grow up in some crazy, you know, abusive, dysfunctional house. Just living in this world, and you're going to have some traumatic experiences when you're a kid. But this is what we end up thinking. People don't like me. I never win. Never win. That one's tough, too. I always fall short. Well, if I never win, what would be the solution, or, you know, the all or nothing solution to this idea that, well, I never win, so why should I try? Right? I mean, I tried playing soccer and I didn't win. I tried this thing, and you shared a great story this week. I won't put you on the spot about it, but that is such a great example, you know. And I worked really hard at this one thing once, and it didn't pan out, so I'm never going to do it again, right? Because it doesn't matter. There's no point in it. This is how we end up in this thinking. My best effort isn't enough. This, of course, is at the height of inadequacy. I'm not good enough. So here we are in this all or nothing. I'm either perfect, I have to perform perfectly, which, by the way, we're the judge of that. So it's not really a perfect performance, it's just one that we can feel safe with. So it's subjective, you know, it could be different for everybody. Or we're waiting. Shameful, shameless. There we are. I'm no good. I have to be Superman. And there we are. Just one extreme to the other, one extreme to the other, living a life of lies, making decisions based on how an experience causes us to feel, which is, it's not even an accurate reflection of that, because it doesn't have the power to do that. And this may seem crazy. Another person's comments, however ugly, do not have the power to make us feel anything. What? You mean, so when this person, whatever, cusses me out, calls me a loser, screams in my face, are you saying you wouldn't feel anything? No, I'm saying that they don't really have the power to make us feel anything. But because of our own life experiences and maybe our history with that person, you probably are going to feel something. But that's why we got to start learning how to reject that first thought. That first thought is, wow, they're being so mean, and they don't appreciate me, and I can't believe. Reject. What's the second thought? Well, there's obviously something going wrong with this person. They're having a really bad day. Maybe somebody died. I don't know, but instead of giving their words power, maybe I can offer. I'm not saying these things are easy. I get it. I'm married too. I know how this stuff works. But it's recognizing words don't have any power. Having an experience doesn't have any power to make us feel anything. And yet we've developed a manner of living that is solely centered on feelings. It's a mind out of whack. It doesn't make sense. So we have to work our way back in to some sanity. Man, there was something else I was going to say about that. The words, but that's the journey of recovery. It starts with just recognizing what's wrong, what's really wrong. So the solution, that's my favorite part, is the solution. You know, I kind of did, I know it's a little dark, can't really see, but, you know what state you're in. You remember shameful, shameless, it's two-sided coin. They're always there together. just we're presenting one over the other, but the other one's always right underneath it. So we're either in our lie of thinking I've got to perform perfectly or I'm no good mode, and that comes with a lot of complaining and blaming, right? Because we're not going to perform perfectly. So when that gets revealed, we don't go, oh wow, gee, I really messed that up. We go, it's your fault. Because I remember I have to perform perfectly, and since I've made a mistake, that makes me feel less than, so I'm just gonna blame you. Well, no, I could have done it perfectly, but you did that thing, or you tripped me up, or you didn't do that thing, or it's your fault. It's the same thing. It's all along that extreme thinking. We will protect it at all costs. And then the opposite extreme of that is nothing. Literally waiting. And while we're waiting, it's just as dangerous because, that's where our depression is. That's where our bitterness is. That's where our resentment is. I think we probably relapse more over the waiting, shameful side than we do the shameless side. At least when we're in shameless mode, we're trying to achieve, because we're trying to be perfect. But it's never going to get it. I mean, it just may take you a little bit longer to relapse, but you're still going to relapse because you're still living in the lie. You're still basing everything on how it makes you feel. I got to feel. It's a scary place when all of a sudden, in early recovery, we start having to move forward regardless of how we feel. We talk about, I think we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember if it was a group or family group, but just being able to push through the grind. Oh yeah, we're kind of talking about the ugly reality of early recovery. What's really at stake. The learning how to just do the same thing over and over and over, just day after day. It's so boring, and this is but then eventually you realize it's not your experience that brings you joy. It's the fact that you're achieving. And in that case, shoot, we can build self-esteem picking up acorns. We can build self-esteem just sitting and counting all the squirrels. You're just enjoying nature. We don't always have to be entertained. But very easily, we can get tripped up in the early recovery process, and we start thinking, well, I've pushed through this little bit, and I've pushed through that little bit, so I shouldn't have to push through anymore, right? And then we'll find ourselves waiting. I'm gonna try to spend some time coming and really kind of outline, what a continuum really looks like. And of course, it'll be different for everybody, but I'll bet the peaks and valleys are pretty much the same. One person's peak might come, at maybe like an 8 or 9 month thing, where another one might come in 6 months, but it's the same. We all hit the same ones. It just depends on how fast you're skiing, I guess. But they always happen. But this extreme thinking is we think we've earned something. Well, geez, I've already changed the tire. I mean, I've changed 15 tires in my life. Now I got to change another one? Well, is it flat? Yeah. Got to change it. It's us looking at our experience to make us whole. And we do that. I'm going to stress that again. We will get to points very early on where we think we've done enough, right? And now it's supposed to be smooth sailing. You're still in the feelings game. You haven't even moved out of the feelings game yet. You're still basing everything on feelings. And perfectionism, we just flying through life. Oh man, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get it perfect. Oh, I got to push through. It's still feelings. And very quickly we end up waiting, and vice versa. So the solution is, I don't put it on the board anymore, but everything starts with, you got to recognize it. And you got to stop living a life of lies, which means you got to understand that we're even living a life of lies. I don't live a life of lies. What are you saying? If all of our decisions are based on our feelings, we're living a life of lies. It's the wrong decision. we got to learn what normal is. I used to hate hearing that. What do you mean learn what normal is? I know what normal is. We don't know what normal is. So we have to be willing to learn what normal is. Why then, if we know what normal is, then why are we so uncomfortable when we have a normal experience? Right? We can't even sit still for 5 minutes in a quiet room without feeling something, feeling discontent. Oh my, here comes the all or nothing. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I should do this and this and that and that. We don't know normal. We've never known normal, but we have to be willing to learn normal. And then practice normal. It's like 3 different things. We got to recognize we don't know normal, process of learning what normal is, and that it's okay, right? It's okay to be normal. It's okay that you don't have 100 things to do today. It's okay that you have 3 things to do today if you're willing to do them. You ever heard that old expression, if you have all day to do something, it'll take you all day to do it? You ever heard that? My grandpa used to say that all the time. Never understood what it meant. What do you mean? I don't understand. You got one thing to do. Why would it take all day? Is it like a 12-hour project? No, it's because, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Object at rest stays at rest. So if you have one thing that's going to take you 10 minutes, you're going to procrastinate. Why? Well, and then finally at the end of the day, maybe if we think we're about to get confronted on it, we'll go ahead and knock it out. Other than that, why? Why does it take all day? It's just going to take 10 minutes. Because I don't see the instant gratification in it. I'm basing my decision on feelings. And that's why, whether we're going 150 miles an hour or we're sitting still waiting, we still self-destruct on either side of that. Because we're making decisions on feelings, how it's going to feel. Well, you didn't tell me that we were going to go to Brahms afterwards. If you'd have just told me that, I would have had it done by noon. Right? We're always looking for the reward in something. And that's why we'll never be satisfied until we move past this extreme thinking, and we start allowing ourselves to literally, it kind of sounds funny, but behave our way into normal. The balance of life is in our behavior. Just, here it comes, doing the next right thing, regardless of how we feel. Isn't that funny? You guys have probably heard that. I know I've heard that over almost a 20-year period. I've heard that probably 4,000 times. Do the next right thing, regardless of how you feel. We can hear that time and time again, and it means nothing to us. Yeah, I know. We gotta do the next right thing. But we don't ever give it any weight because we're still looking for the reward in our decisions. The reward comes after. Let me make sure I got all the things. I'll give you guys a chance. Oh, yeah. Number 5 is my favorite on the solution, but that's another really important part. Understand where your side of the street ends. That's remember, we've confused that. We think the other side of our street ends on the other side of the other guy's street, or side of the street. No, our side of the street ends where theirs begin. And yet we put so much time and energy and resources into what's on the other side of the street. But of course, on our side of the street, we're dodging cars and we're jumping back on the curb, but we're complaining about, man, if only you guys would stop driving so fast, then I could feel different. That's not where the solution is. The fit point number 5 on the solution, my favorite one, is a really good place to start overcoming this life of extremes is just to start listening. Just listen. Quit giving input, quit thinking, because thinking leads to overthinking and rationalizing, and that's the most important thing we can do throughout this whole process. is just keep listening. That doesn't mean not talking. That means actually paying attention to what we're hearing and evaluating what we're hearing, not analyze, but that we're pondering, we're receiving it, we're chewing on it, as they say. We're allowing new information to become a part of us. Don't kid yourself just because maybe you don't talk a lot into thinking that since you don't talk a lot, you must be doing a lot of listening. No, we can not talk a lot and not listen either. Remember, because that's all programmed in us. We are masters of pretending to listen. If you want to stop living a life of extremes, learn how to listen. That's why we do whole groups on it. In fact, that would be a good one. We should work on that one tomorrow. We'll work on what it really means to listen, active listening. Okay, so let me just kind of finish talking because I want to hear what you guys want to share, and it can be on anything. What do you guys want to share tonight before we break?
Well, I know controlling things is always an issue. I mean, of people, and I've tried to frame it like sometimes say, anyone can be Santa Claus, but no one gets to be God. You can see what you can give to a situation. You can give to it and contribute to it, but you can't control it.
I like that. Mm-hmm. That's funny. And yet, we can get so upset. When I say upset, I mean irritable, restless, discontent on the inside, stuck in our head because of things that we're perceiving beyond ourselves as some sort of injustice. This other thing should be happening, shouldn't be happening, could it happen, would it happen? And we can get lost in stuff that literally has nothing to do with us. So we wish we could be God. Because then I could feel better, right? Then I could change everybody, and then I wouldn't have to feel bad.
And so much of anytime you see someone who's angry about something, usually it's because they're trying to control something that they can't control. That's not theirs to control.
And of course that's textbook. That's dead on. That's the only three things that we ever get angry about are equal with the three basic fears. Now think about this. Not getting something that we want, losing something we thought we had, or getting caught for something that we did. Those are literally the only three things we ever get angry about. What if you could, next time you see somebody angry, you could just approach them from that perspective? What is it that you're afraid you're not going to get? And of course they're angry. So what you're going to get back is the lie. Oh no, it's got nothing to do with that. Yeah, it's got everything to do with that. You're wanting something, and you're not getting it right now. That's all it is. And it could be attention, it could be validation, it could be approval, it could be a material thing. It could be something, but it's something that we're wanting that we're not getting. And that's the stress reaction. It's anger. That's a good one. Jeremiah, you usually got a little bit of something to share. At least on the week. How's the week been?
It's been good. Man, I wish I had time to come the whole 3 days, but it's been hectic at work, and I barely got time today to come here. Just got home and took a shower, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've really learned. I mean, by listening to you guys, your experiences, it's helped me a lot, So I keep trying to show up. Just got a bunch of stuff to do right now, but But I want to save my time to come here.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah,
Don't let yourself fall into that, that extreme. Oh man,
Yeah.
I missed the last 2 weeks, and now they're gonna chew me out. Don't get caught up in that thinking. If you start, I gotta miss a week. You just keep doing, doing, and it doesn't have to be a perfect experience.
Yep.
That's how we get better.
Yes, sir.
That's absolutely how we get better. So your wife's doing good. And you're,
Yeah. My daughter was, she was actually coming with me today, but I thought it was going to be earlier, like at 6.
oh
And
yeah.
she's going out of town tomorrow. She's got a bunch of stuff to do,
Oh
so
yeah.
she
Too
couldn't
late.
make it tonight, but she was actually coming. But yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, that'll be neat when she gets back.
yeah,
Bring her.
probably next week. No, not next week. It's Thanksgiving.
Oh
right?
yeah. Well, we are
Probably
going to
after.
do another fire pit group soon. We'll figure out a week where,
Okay.
because a lot of people missed it. Oh yeah, you guys missed it.
Yeah, I told him about
It'll
it.
be fun. It's nothing special, but it's fun. If
Mhm.
it's not too cold, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just enough to have a fire, but not freezing our toes off. Yeah, we'll do it again. Okay.
And
Yes.
yeah, I'm that kind of one that tries to please everyone, you know. You know, and like you say, I don't know if it's because some things at work, like at work, that I try to be perfect on what I do, you know, get a quality work to my customers and stuff,
Yeah.
whatever. And sometimes I feel like I'm pushing too much my people, and then I try to please them on some other ways, you know. But at the same time, I do it, you know, because I like, not because I want to, you know, get even for what I did or the way I talk sometimes,
Yeah.
but because I, from the bottom of my heart, like to please people, you know. But it's kind of.
Well, that's how you know what's driving it is you're doing it because it's important to you.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get any response from them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you find yourself, you know, on the truck ride away from that job or something, and you're starting to think about, oh my God, you know, they seem kind of upset. I'm not sure. Did you do everything that was important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Then you leave it. Because we don't know. You know, we think we know how to read people. And maybe we can sometimes, but we don't have a clue what other people are thinking.
Oh,
I know I've had so many of those experiences where I really thought, you know, somebody was really, really, really upset,
mm-hmm.
whether it was with me or something else, and then have a conversation with them, and then it had nothing to do with me. They were just thinking about something. They weren't upset. They weren't, you know. But that's what we're talking about. We'll start personalizing other people's facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said goodbye, and they didn't even hardly notice me, and they must be mad at me. Well, maybe they didn't even hear you. Maybe they said goodbye that you didn't. You know, we don't know, but we will drive ourselves crazy. So that's a good measuring stick. Is did you do? Are you happy with how you carried yourself?
And you know, I've had guys working with me. I haven't worked for myself for too long, probably 3 years. So I've had probably about 6 different people working with me in
Yeah.
that length of time. And sometimes I feel like I know I need to keep working on my, you know, on the way I manage, you know, myself with people, with my coworkers, my numbers. And I think sometimes, man, like I'm not doing everything all right, but at the end of the road, all of the people that have worked with me, you know, some of them are no longer with me, some are with me, and but they're still my friends. You know, they're still hanging out with me, and they let me know, you know, so if I struggle to be this way at work, out of work, I mean, it's a whole different story. You know, it's just the pressure of you know, trying to make everything perfect, you know,
Yeah.
but no, bro, good for my customers. But you know, it's this all this stuff. It just doesn't help. It's just not just for addiction. It helps you. I mean, that's what I like about it. That it helps you in all, on your all around daily living. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, all that drinking and using is just as ugly as it gets. It's just the symptom. We can just learn how to live life, then we're gonna be okay. Learn how to handle our own emotions and deal with defeat and put up with disappointments and learn how to see the world the way it is realistically versus, you know, it's either with me or against me, then we're gonna do okay. You're gonna do okay. You'll realize just how stress driven our using was. It's, I don't do well out here in the world. It sucks. We don't know how to handle it. So drinking and using was a nice little relief. I was thinking about all the lies we tell ourselves. No, I just enjoy it. It's nothing serious. You know, it's all a lie. It's all a lie. Oh, I'm just a social drink. It's a lie.
Mhm.
Oh, I only drink on the. No, it's a lie. Because it's not normal to want to feel different. It's not normal to want to be drunk. It's not. It's not a normal thing to want to be high. And yet, to us, it's just oh, we're driven to. Oh, I gotta have. Well, that's not normal to want to be out of our body.
Yeah.
You know, we're designed to be within what we got here, and we have everything on board that we need. You realize that your brain can produce enough natural morphine that if it were to release all at once, you would die from a drug overdose. We've got it all on board naturally. That's not gonna make anybody stop drinking or using. You know, just knowing that we were right. We know that. I know it's gonna kill me.
Mhm.
But if we change, if we're willing to change and grow, then we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll stay there. Okay, well, I'll cut y'all loose. Thanks for listening and not walking out the door. Thanks, Eric. You turning that off. This will be a good one to have. Just